The S&B Cold Air that we have here today would be a great choice for the 2018 and newer 2.7 liter EcoBoost owners who are looking for one of the nicest sealed options available in the category at a very attractive price point. Now the S&B will feature that durable ABS plastic build throughout, reusable oiled filter here, and will not require the use of any custom or can tuning. Now, price point for the highly rated 5-star product will live in that mid to high $300 range and is backed by S&B's signature million-mile warranty. All right, guys, you probably heard me say it before. I'll say it again. Intakes are definitely the gateway drug, if you will, into more modifications, because oftentimes it gets truck owners comfortable with wrenching on their own rigs at home. Now, not only is there just an instant improvement in both appearance and performance, but I would say the satisfaction of knowing you can tackle something like this on your own in the driveway or garage is ultimately going to help build confidence for the next round of modifications. All right, guys, so the S&B that we have here on the table today is easily one of the most popular in the category for the EcoBoost truck owners out there. Well over 100 5-star reviews, in fact, nearly a perfect rating, which is very hard to find anymore. And with that being said, I'm going to encourage you to read up on some of those reviews. Check out some of the engine bay pics from the 2.7 out there. Definitely help you make your decision at the end of the day. But let's break down some of your major components of the kit here, guys, and a couple to talk about, but two biggies jump right out at me. First and foremost, you're getting a sealed enclosure, not just any sealed enclosure, guys, one that's been designed and built very well. This thing is like a tank. Now, sealed enclosures such as this are always gonna get a big thumbs up for me personally, as they will be the best bet at reducing high intake air temperatures, especially when the truck is stationary. When the truck just sits in traffic or whatever, that's when the hot engine bay air tends to creep in with those open element style filters. Now when the truck is moving, obviously not much of a big deal because you are getting that fresh air through the front of the truck, but if you are the type of owner who does sit in a lot of traffic, especially in a hot state or a hot climate, that could be a factor. High intake air temperatures can result in a very sluggish feeling truck, especially forced induction powered rigs such as the EcoBoost. Now on top of that sealed enclosure, it's not on the table, but they give you a nice little plexiglass window here etched with the S&B logo. Definitely dig it, and again, it just adds to the quality of the kit. Now inside of your sealed enclosure will be this bad boy. This is S&B's signature oiled filter. General rule of thumb here, guys, is that the oiled filters will flow just a hair better, whereas a dry filter might capture just a little bit more particles. Shouldn't be a huge concern regardless because it is in the enclosure altogether. Now, the only drawback to an oiled filter is that, yes, they do require a little bit more maintenance. You do have to clean them. You do have to re-oil them using S&B's oiling kit, which is available separately here. So just keep that in mind. Now, if this sounds like a bit much for you, you'd rather just kind of set it and forget it, S&B does also offer a dry filter version of the same exact kit that you can find here on the site as well. But what do you say we talk benefits here at the S&B, and right out of the gate, you're gonna be getting a more modified underhood appearance. Whenever you pop that hood, this thing's gonna be staring right at you. It's gonna look great, and certainly adds to the experience. But I think most owners looking into something like this are wanting some more power, right? That's what these things tend to be all about. A little bit more horsepower, a little bit more torque. How much exactly? Well, we don't have any specific dyno numbers for this kit here in-house. I typically quote high single digits, low double digits without the use of any tuning. I feel that's a realistic expectation. I wouldn't expect 20 to 30 wheel horsepower, guys. Probably not gonna happen without the use of any tuning. Now, on the topic of tuning, yes, you can bolt the S&B up and go without the need for anything else. Now, if you wanted to add a tune down the road, certainly gonna help maximize those gains, of course, and that is entirely possible as well. Now, getting back to the components here, we talked airbox, we talked oiled filter. You're getting a really nice intake tube here, rotomolded plastic, guys. I like that. Again, a little less susceptible to heat soak. Gonna help perform a little bit better. Really nice couplers, clamps, all that good stuff. And even this little scoop that will install on top of your rad cover here, replacing your factory option. The S&B is very, very complete, guys. Again, they give you everything needed to get this thing bolted up rather easily. All your hardware, obviously everything on the table here and everything in between. And again, the system is backed, or at least the filter is backed by S&B's million-mile warranty in case you ever run into any issues. But now we want to shift gears and get into the install. So I'm going to call this a middle of the road 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, soft 2 out of 3 wrenches that is, and maybe an hour or so to get everything knocked out from start to finish. But again, to give you a better idea of just how exactly this job will go down on your 2.7 at home, here's an American Trucks customer to walk you through it.
Here's the tools needed to install the S&B cold air intake on my 2018 Ford F-150 with the 2.7 EcoBoost engine. You need a flathead screwdriver, Phillips head screwdriver, 10mm socket, 13mm socket, 5/16 socket, 1/4 inch socket, socket wrench, a couple different extensions, and a pair of channel locks. The first thing I'm going to do is remove the negative terminal from my battery. To do this, I'm using a 10mm socket. Next, I'm going to remove the hose clamp from the stock airbox, from the driver's side turbo, and from the passenger side turbo. To do this, I'm using a flathead screwdriver. Now, I'm going to remove these 2 clips from the stock airbox. When that's done, I'll lift and remove the top of the airbox, as well as the stock filter. Now, I'm going to remove this temperature sensor from the stock air tank. I'll do this by turning counterclockwise and pulling out. Pushing down on this tab, I'll remove the temperature sensor from the wiring harness. Now I'm going to lift and remove the stock air tube. Next, I will remove the retaining bolt from the stock airbox using a 13mm socket and a socket wrench. Then I will remove this grommet and metal insert by pushing the metal insert out and pulling the grommet in. I will need to save these for later for the installation of the new cold air intake. Now I will remove 2 retaining clips and 2 wiring harnesses from the stock airbox. I'll remove the retaining clips using a flathead screwdriver. These retaining clips come in a 2-piece design. Sometimes it may come out, but it's best to remove the top piece before the bottom. Now I will remove the 2 wiring harnesses from the stock airbox using a flathead screwdriver. When that's done, I will be able to lift and remove the stock airbox. For the next step, I will be installing the rubber grommet and metal insert on my new S&B airbox. Push the grommet in from the outside, and then the metal insert will get inserted through the inside of the airbox. Now, I'll be installing the cuff and the hose clamp onto the new airbox. It's easier to get this hose clamp on the cuff before it's on the airbox. Push down to make sure it's seated all the way around. Then with the flathead screwdriver, I will tighten the hose clamp down. Next, I'll be installing the front inlet onto the airbox. I will do this by using these plastic rivets provided in my kit. The inlet slides onto the outside of the airbox. Then I will use 2 rivets per hole, pushing one from the outside and one from the inside until they lock into place. Once it's locked in, you should hear it click into place. Make sure when installing these rivets that you're pushing down all the way until there's no more space to push. Now I'm going to install the rubber grommet included in my kit onto the new intake tube. Now I'll install the new couplers and the hose clamps onto the intake tube. Each coupler is a different size, so it's easy to tell which part of the intake it goes onto. Once the coupler is on and in place, I will install the hose clamp and tighten it down with a flathead screwdriver. For a 2.7 EcoBoost, I will need to reroute this vent hose underneath this hose. So to do that, I will remove this clamp by pushing the 2 clips in and pulling out through the other side. After that, the hose just comes off and I will reroute it underneath and reattach. Next, I'm going to remove the CCV tube from the driver's side turbo and install this insert that came in my kit. There's a little clip on the tube that you push out and then you can wiggle the hose out. This insert gets put in with the angle facing towards the turbo. You slide it in until it bottoms out. After that, you can reinstall the tube. Make sure to push it down all the way until you hear a click. Now I'm going to install the new airbox. There's 2 holes down here that will align to these 2 prongs on the airbox. And make sure they line up. slide right into place. Now I'm going to reinstall this retaining bolt in the new airbox. I'll do this using a 13mm socket and a socket wrench. The bolt gets put in through the inside, through the grommet that I reinstalled earlier, and start the thread by hand, and finish it off with my socket wrench. Switched out the extension, the one I had was a little short. Now I'm going to install the sensor I removed earlier onto the new air tube. Before I do this, I want to remove this O-ring from the sensor. I'm just going to use a little pick to pull the O-ring off. You can cut it off or use a screwdriver to do that as well. When that's done, I will insert it here into the tube. Make sure it's pushed down all the way. Makes it easier to do if you twist. Work it back and forth. And you want to push down with this little tab pointing out. You want to make sure the tab is flush against the grommet. Now it's time to put the air filter into the airbox. I'm using the pre-oiled reusable filter, which is red. If you're using a dry filter, it will be a different color. It should be a white paper filter. To do this, I'm going to insert sideways and leave it sitting at the bottom for now. All right, I'm going to take the intake tube, install the oval end into the airbox. I'm going to make sure that these tubes are aligned with the tubes for the turbo. After that, come back to the airbox opening and install the filter onto the intake tube. Before doing this, it might help to loosen the hose clamp just a bit. Once I have it installed and seated, I can take my flathead screwdriver and tighten that hose clamp down. This one may be a little hard to see, but I'm going to attach these couplers to both the driver's side and the passenger side turbo inlets. The driver's side is here underneath the intake, and the passenger side is right here. Being careful not to tighten them down until I have both couplers installed. Once I have both sides fully seated, I can take my flathead screwdriver and tighten down all of the hose clamps. All right, now I'm going to reinstall these little clips for this wiring harness that I removed earlier, as well as the wiring harness for the temperature sensor over here. So for these clips, there's two holes on the new airbox. One is down here underneath the logo, just pops in, and the other is on the side of the airbox, right there. And I'll take the wiring harness and just reconnect it to the sensor, making sure it's fully inserted when I hear a click. It's time to install the two retaining clips that are provided in my kit into the intake scoop. This is a two-step process. I install it and then I push the little top part down to lock it into place. Okay, we're almost done. Just a couple more things. I'm gonna take this cover for the airbox and remove the protective film from the outside. This might be a little difficult to get started. All right, once I get all that coating off, the protective film, mine was a little difficult. I had to scrape a lot of the little bits off with my fingernails, being careful not to scratch the cover. Now I'm going to install this seal around the outside of the cover. All right, my seal seems to be a little bit long, and I want this to be nice and tight around this cover. So I'm going to grab some scissors and just cut this little end off, being careful not to cut too much. I'm not sure where I left my scissors, so I'm just going to use a pair of wire cutters. Just cut it off. Insert the seal right on down. And there we go. All right, now to install this cover onto the airbox. So in my kit, I had these little screws with little rubber washers. I found it easier to push the washers onto the screws before I even got started. And then I'm gonna use my Phillips head to tighten it down. Be careful not to over tighten and not to fully tighten down until I get all the screws in place. All right, and once I've got all the screws inserted, I can go around and start tightening each screw down. Again, I want to be careful not to over tighten these screws. I want to tighten them down till they're snug. All right, guys, and that's it. A pretty easy process, simple process all in all. And this was my first time really doing something like this to my truck. And I didn't have too much difficulty. You know, the last thing to do is to reconnect this negative battery terminal using my 10 mil socket. And there we go.
Well, wrapping this one up, guys, if you are looking for one of the highest rated intakes available on the site for your EcoBoost at home at a pretty attractive price point, I would definitely consider the S&B for your rig right here at AmericanTrucks.com.